calling them toxic as if her fans, because KTV is a Caitlin Clark fan. She's my favorite basketball player to watch, male or female. Point blank, period. Now she's calling us toxic for saying the obvious about the sabotage that was going in this league and how this woman has been targeted since before she even stepped foot in it, all while Stephanie White wants to ignore the facts of what the other players in this league have done, from disrespecting fans, starting fake racial.
Brace yourself, because Stephanie White's comments have sent shockwaves through the WNBA, plunging the league into a whirlwind of controversy. She didn't speak casually, she openly labeled fans as toxic, a statement widely interpreted as a direct hit on Caitlin Clark's fiercely loyal and rapidly growing fan base. This sparked an immediate social media explosion, with fans and analysts alike expressing outrage. This wasn't a simple slip of the tongue. It came across as deliberate, calculated, and fully aware of its impact. The reaction has been fierce, with calls for White's removal from her coaching role, with the Indiana Fever growing louder by the hour. The league itself is grappling with the fallout, struggling to understand how a coach could alienate the very supporters fueling its unprecedented growth and record-breaking popularity. Fans see this as an attack on the backbone of the WNBA's expansion, the passionate audience that has propelled women's basketball into the mainstream spotlight. The controversy is sweeping across every corner of professional women's basketball, igniting debates, discussions, and backlash that cannot be ignored. White's remarks have created a firestorm, challenging the league to respond while putting its values, fan relations, and public image under an intense microscope.
Ignore the facts of what the other players in this league have done, from disrespecting fans, starting fake racial investigations, going on platform. I'm gonna give you the facts that Stephanie White wanted to leave out. This is nasty work. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, and hype the video. Let's get right into things on a Sunday. Let's get into it. So, we had this article here. Obviously, Stephanie White was recently on Sue Bird's podcast, where
It's important to recognize that this isn't an isolated incident. It's the result of a clear, ongoing pattern of behavior. For months leading up to this, Stephanie White had been consistently downplaying Caitlin Clark's enormous impact on the team and the league. She repeatedly emphasized that Kelsey Mitchell was, in her view, the Fever's main priority, creating a narrative that directly conflicted with the reality on the ground. Clark's arrival has undeniably transformed the Fever's profile and dramatically boosted league-wide viewership, setting unprecedented records in the process. Insiders close to the situation suggest that White was eventually pressured, even to publicly acknowledge Clark's central role. However, this recognition appeared far from genuine, feeling more like a reluctant concession or a strategic attempt at damage control than heartfelt acknowledgement. The tension surrounding this dynamic had been quietly simmering beneath the surface for months, building steadily and waiting for a catalyst. The recent, reckless remarks targeting Clark's devoted fan base were the spark that finally set it off. What might have been managed quietly has now exploded into a full-blown crisis, exposing deep-seated frustrations, bias, and mismanagement. The league, the team, and fans alike are now grappling with the fallout, as this incident lays bare the simmering conflicts that have been present far longer than most realized.
Paige Bueckers did too, but they don't need to be a part of the Caitlin Clark conversation. Caitlin Clark is the reason for the boom in the WNBA, point blank, period. It's not because of no Angel Reese. It's not because of no Paige Bueckers. They were some of the lowest. They had some of the lowest attendance for their games throughout the entire season. So I don't know why they keep trying to lump them in with Caitlin Clark. But whatever. It's hard to imagine the WNBA players would get vastly increased salaries they're going to receive as part of a ratified CBA, or at least their salaries wouldn't have increased to the same degree. Now, we know they wouldn't be asking for all this money if it wasn't.
So, where did all this controversy actually begin? According to the transcript, Stephanie White's remarks originated during her appearance on Suburb's iView podcast, a widely followed platform. While ostensibly discussing the WNBA's explosive growth, the same surge we've been highlighting, she stated, and I quote, "I like to change the toxicity around our league." On the surface, that phrase might sound reasonable, even admirable. Who wouldn't want to reduce toxicity in the sport? However, context is everything. When considering her full comments and the immediate backlash from fans, the statement took on a far more troubling dimension. Attentive fans quickly interpreted her words as a subtle critique, one that conveniently ignored documented issues within the league and the actions of certain players. Rather than addressing those internal problems, White appeared to deflect blame entirely onto the league's passionate and vocal supporters, fans who were simply expressing their opinions and celebrating their favorite players. The backlash was swift and intense. What might have seemed like a casual comment turned into a lightning rod for criticism, highlighting both her tone-deaf approach and the ongoing tension between league leadership and its most engaged audience.
Now, you are ignoring the things that the players have done. These players have gone on. Arike Ogunbowale was on ESPN during Caitlin Clark's rookie year, calling out fans saying, "We don't want you." We had people like Ryan Howard go at a post-game podium and disrespect Asia Wilson fans because they showed up and cheered for Asia Wilson at an Atlanta Dream game that was a home game for the Atlanta Dream. And she gets mad that people are cheering for Asia Wilson at an Atlanta Dream game. So now hard-working fans.
The hypocrisy in this situation, as noted by countless observers and fans, is truly astonishing. While Stephanie White passionately criticized so-called toxic fans, she glaringly overlooked a wide range of player behaviors that have clearly fueled controversy and negativity within the league for years. These aren't minor disagreements or locker room whispers. We're talking about very public incidents. Players have openly disrespected fans, made shocking claims about fake racial investigations, and engaged in heated rivalries and spats across social media, all of which were visible to the public and widely reported. These high-profile actions have undeniably contributed to an already tense and often contentious atmosphere surrounding the league. Yet, White has consistently refrained from addressing or condemning these behaviors, raising serious questions about her motives and the true purpose behind her statements. The double standard is unmistakable. While fans' passionate reactions are scrutinized and labeled toxic, the actual sources of conflict within the league itself are conveniently ignored, creating a striking contrast that's impossible for any impartial observer to dismiss.
To go to a basketball game can't cheer for who they want to cheer for. So she's mad that she was disrespecting fans for cheering for Asia Wilson, but in the same breath, we had Kalia Copper of the Phoenix Mercury get mad and call out fans for booing DeWanna Bonner, who left the Indiana Fever, who was on the opposing Phoenix Mercury team when they went to play in Indiana. So fans can't cheer for an Asia Wilson on a road game, but they also can't boo an opposing player coming into their arena.
This raises a critical question. What role have fans actually played, and what can they realistically do? Let's take a step back to a time before Caitlin Clark ever stepped onto a WNBA court. Even then, the league was already steeped in internal politics, tensions, and visible frustrations. Players like Angel Reese openly discussed, and even promoted, the idea of competing in alternative leagues, such as the highly talked about Unrivaled League. This was a direct critique of the WNBA's structure and the perceived shortcomings within its system. Not long after, Sata Sabali made her own bold statements, demanding publicly, "Pay us what you owe us," and even wearing protest shirts during the All-Star break to make her point. These were far from minor issues. They were clear, public indicators of systemic problems within both the league and its player community. And notably, this unrest existed well before fans, particularly those rallying behind Caitlin Clark, began expressing their opinions or frustrations. In this context, framing fans as the primary source of chaos is not only inaccurate, it is a gross misrepresentation of the situation. The reality is that the league's internal conflicts, long-standing grievances, and player-led protests are the real drivers of tension, not the passionate fan base that supports rising stars like Clark.
Wilson on a road game, but they also can't boo in opposing player coming into their arena. What can fans do? We've seen all types of fans be called racist. Black fans of Caitlin Clark, like myself, be called the raccoons, all types of stuff. These people come at the fans all the time. The players. You never address the things that these players have done to contribute to any negativity around the league. You never do that. It took Nafisa Collier getting taken out.
Let's cut to the chase. The recent surge in the WNBA's popularity is overwhelmingly and measurably driven by Caitlin Clark. There's no denying it. Her presence alone has elevated viewership, attendance, and general interest in the league. Yet, despite this glaring reality, there are constant efforts to understate her impact. How? By loosely grouping other players, like Angel Reese and Paige Bueckers, into the narrative, even though their teams consistently rank among the league's lowest in attendance and ratings. This deliberate downplaying of Clark's transformative influence, even while the league monetizes her appeal to sell tickets and boost ratings, has become a major source of frustration for fans. Supporters watch in disbelief as her contributions are minimized, while others appear to bask in her reflected glory without earning it. Ironically, it's this very dynamic, the diminishing of Clark's undeniable impact, that feeds into the so-called toxicity Stephanie White now publicly criticizes, revealing a disconnect between perception and the actual drivers of league engagement.
About fans. The organization, there's been organizations such as the Indiana Fever who lied and hid injuries about Caitlin Clark the whole time, all while using her to sell tickets and saying she's game to game and day to day for months at a time. You don't think that contributed? See, you guys want to make this just about the fans, and I've watched all of these players go out and disrespect fans, all while trying to use the money and the fandom that Caitlin Clark has brought in to capitalize and to make money off of. What are we talking about here?
Now let's talk money, because the financial impact here is impossible to ignore. The WNBA's unprecedented surge in popularity, almost entirely driven by Caitlin Clark, is directly fueling the massive salary increases players are set to receive under the new collective bargaining agreement. Make no mistake, without her influence, these life-changing pay raises might never have reached this scale, if they happened at all. Yet, many within the league, players and coaches alike, seem hesitant, even unwilling, to fully recognize her role. This creates a striking disconnect between those benefiting financially and the true source of that growth, the energized fan base Clark has attracted. These are the supporters whose passion, engagement, and investment are the foundation of this financial boom. For league insiders to then criticize, or worse, attack, these very fans is not only short-sighted, it borders on disrespectful. It undermines the core reality that Clark's presence is driving both the league's popularity and its economic success.
Oh, the fans are making this No. We are calling it like we see it. It's that simple. If you want to call out the toxicity, call out everything around the board. Call out the people that started fake racial investigate. Call out all of it. Don't just try to make it about Caitlin Clark fans. And this is why I believe Stephanie White needs to be fired. And I stand on that. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. This is Keep the Vision. Make sure you like.
The controversy escalated when fans began pointing out clear examples of player disrespect that Stephanie White completely ignored. Take Rakuna Williams of the Las Vegas Aces, for instance. During Clark's rookie season, Williams appeared on ESPN and openly declared, "We don't want you." This wasn't subtle. It was a direct, hostile message aimed at new fans, many of whom were drawn to the league because of Clark. Such blatant negativity toward passionate supporters represents the very toxicity White claimed she wanted to eliminate, but she overlooked it entirely. Fans immediately noticed the double standard. While players openly disrespected newcomers, White focused her criticism solely on the fans who simply came to enjoy the game and cheer for their favorite athletes. The hypocrisy was impossible to ignore. Ryan Howard of the Atlanta Dream also publicly criticized Aya Wilson's fans for showing support during a home game. Fans paying for tickets were effectively told they couldn't cheer for the players they came to watch. These incidents make it clear that the league's true challenge isn't fan behavior, but the lack of accountability for players and coaches, whose actions often foster the very negativity that White publicly condemned. This wasn't just an isolated incident or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a stark, brazen display of what many perceive as player entitlement, a blatant disregard for the paying fans who form the backbone of professional sports. Such behavior from athletes fosters a toxic, unwelcoming environment, one that risks alienating the very audience that sustains the league financially and culturally. Yet, what's astonishing is the silence from league leadership, particularly from White, who remains conspicuously quiet on these specific player actions. Instead, she's quick to condemn fan reactions, creating a double standard that fuels division and resentment rather than addressing the core issues. This contradiction becomes even more evident when considering the case of Kalani Brown of the Phoenix Mercury. When Johnny Carrington, a former Indiana Fever player, returned to Indianapolis with her team, she was met with the predictable jeers and boos that are common in sports, fans expressing their passion, their rivalry, their loyalty. However, Brown publicly criticized the fans for this natural, time-honored tradition. Her comments, criticizing supporters for booing a former player, are not just misguided, but reveal a troubling attitude of entitlement. What exactly are fans supposed to do? Cheer only for their team, applaud only the players they like, and remain silent when they dislike an opposing star? This kind of gatekeeping, where fans are told how to behave, only creates more friction, resentment, and division within the league's community. This isn't merely about isolated incidents of player-fan friction. The situation runs deeper and darker. Black fans supporting Caitlin Clark, including content creators who dared to expose White's comments, have been subjected to vile racialized attacks. Some have been called raccoons, a deeply offensive racial slur, by members of the league's own community. This targeted abuse, rooted in racial bias, reveals a disturbing undercurrent of toxicity that is often overlooked or dismissed by league officials like White. It's a troubling reality. Supporters who simply cheer for a player are being met with racist insults from within the very community that claims to champion diversity and inclusion. The narrative pushed by the league and some players is that fans are the problem, that their reactions, their passion, and their criticisms are toxic. Fans have questioned the officiating, the double standards, and the unequal treatment of star players. To blame those fans for reacting, to accuse them of toxicity, is a gross misdirection, an attempt to deflect responsibility from the league and its players for their own misconduct. Furthermore, the Indiana Fever organization, under White's coaching, engaged in questionable practices regarding Caitlin Clark's health. Reports emerged that the team lied about her injuries, concealed her medical condition, and continued to push her onto the court despite clear signs of injury. This deception, aimed at maximizing ticket sales and maintaining a competitive image, betrayed her trust and left fans feeling manipulated and angry. The conflicting injury reports, the lack of transparency, and the apparent prioritization of revenue over player well-being are issues that go far beyond the court. The surge in popularity has created new opportunities for the league to expand its reach, increase viewership, and improve player salaries through collective bargaining. But this boom is fragile. It depends on a healthy relationship between players, teams, and fans. Instead of nurturing this relationship, the league's leadership, particularly Stephanie White, has chosen to blame fans for the problems, rather than addressing systemic issues within the league. This strategy of scapegoating fans is both short-sighted and counterproductive. It ignores the fact that fans are the lifeblood of the sport. They're the ones who buy tickets, purchase merchandise, stream games, and generate the buzz that fuels the league's growth. When White publicly criticizes fan reactions, she undermines that vital relationship. It's a dangerous approach that risks alienating the passionate base that has helped revive women's basketball and elevate its profile. The core issue here is accountability. If the league truly wants to address toxicity, Whether it manifests as unruly fan behavior, disrespectful players, or organizational missteps, it must do so across all levels. That means holding players accountable for initiating false racial investigations, disrespecting fans, booing former teammates, or disparaging new audiences and key demographics. This selective outrage only deepens divisions, breeds resentment, and hampers the league's growth. Instead, leadership must acknowledge its own shortcomings and foster an environment of inclusivity, respect, and genuine accountability. The current state of women's professional basketball is at a critical crossroads. The league is experiencing an exciting period of growth, yet it also faces internal strife and deep-seated divisions. The online discourse surrounding players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese has become increasingly toxic, often devolving into tribalism, personal attacks, and racialized insults. Instead of fostering unity, White's approach, blaming fans and dismissing valid criticism, only fuels these divisions. Such a strategy risks turning a moment of opportunity into a crisis of trust and community. The future of women's basketball depends on leadership that values transparency, inclusivity, and genuine community engagement. Only then can it truly thrive and fulfill its promise of inspiring generations to come.